Hello and welcome to another episode of Rate That Rumour. We're Box and Borders, Ben here, and I'm joined by Ryan Baldi, who is from Football Whispers. He's a writer, reporter, all of the above. Ryan, we've spoken before about transfers, so let's do the same thing again. Let's kick things off. We spoke about the Manchester clubs quite a lot last time, so let's switch it up and talk about Arsenal. Big news today. Arsene Wenger's going to be getting himself, or has got himself, a brand new contract. And it looks like he's already getting the checkbook out. Onyekuru, a young lad from the Belgium League, I believe, is who Arsenal are targeting at the moment. Rumours flying about. Tell us about the kid. Who is he and where have these rumours come from?
It seems that it's pretty close to being a done deal from what I gather. Arsenal have agreed a 6.8 million fee that he plays for. Striker, very athletic, very fast. He's been likened to Thierry Henry, and it's no surprise that apparently he idolised Henry as a youngster. So I guess Arsenal will be his dream move. And stylistically, from what I gather, I can't claim to have seen a huge amount of the player, but he was a top scorer in the Belgian Jupiler League this season with 20 goals, 24 and 9 assists in all comps. Plays as a striker but likes to drift out to the left, very much like Henry did in his pomp. Looking at the way Arsenal have been playing recently, if Wenger decides to stick with the 3-4-3 formation that's brought them a lot of success in the last few weeks, rather than the central strikers, rather, I would perhaps suggest that he will find the most game time in one of the two wide positions either side of a central striker. But the likelihood is, with him still being 19 and a very raw talent, there may also be an issue with the work permit for him. So there's a good chance that if Arsenal do complete the signing, which it looks like they will, that he may get loaned out next season to build some experience and maybe come back stronger. But if he does land at the Emirates next season as a member of the first team squad, yeah, I do see him perhaps slotting into the left side of the attacking three, but maybe not as a first choice option. Maybe someone who will come in, compete for game minutes with the likes of, if Sanchez, if he's still there, and the players they have at their disposal, like a Iwobi, to play that similar kind of role.
I was going to say, Ryan, it's another case here of Arsenal buying young talent. It's another case here of Arsenal not buying someone who's world-class proven. Surely this guy will just be a potential signing more than we're going to put him straight into the team and expect him to lead the line type of signing, right?
Yeah, definitely one for the future. Like I said, 19 years old. He's done really well in Belgium, but to step up to the Premier League, to come straight into a team like Arsenal, who are going to be fighting tooth and nail to get back into the Champions League qualification places next season, I think that might be a bit of a stretch too far for him. So it'll either be a bit part role or, as I said, perhaps even a loan elsewhere to build up some experience.
Well, I was going to say 6.8 million is the projected fee for a young lad scoring that amount of goals, showing the talent that he has over the past 12 months. It seems like quite a low sum. Obviously, he's not in one of the biggest Belgium sides in terms of money and reputation. So is it a case that they're jumping at the money, or is it a case that this guy won't sign a new deal with them, or is it a great deal this for Arsenal in general?
I think generally speaking, it's a pretty good deal. I think for a player moving out of the Belgian league, 6.8 million for such an inexperienced player to them would seem like a good wad of cash to get in for a low investment. It's a good return. For Arsenal's point of view, that's peanuts in the current market. It's pretty low risk for them. If it doesn't work out, they could probably sell him for a similar fee. But obviously, he's going to have a pretty high ceiling, being someone who has been compared to Henry. Those type of comparisons, though they may flatter him, they might set the bar a little bit too high, set expectations a little bit too high from this point. But if he gets anywhere near that kind of level, even if he reaches the level of an Iwobi or someone who can be a squad rotation player in the future, those type of players go for 30 million these days. So they'll have made a good investment there.
And by the looks of things, he could have signed for Celtic in January, but it just didn't happen by the looks of it. We'll wait and see how good this young lad Onyekuru is. Maybe in the League Cup next season, not knowing when he's going to get his chance, if not wherever he ends up on loan. Let's go back then to the Manchester clubs. Last time we spoke, we were talking about City raiding Monaco. They have done with Bernardo Silva, who you said at the point would be United's perfect signing this summer. And to be honest, it looked like it was on. Originally then, we were talking about Fabinho to City as well. It looks like the tide has changed a little bit. Bernardo Silva's now gone to City, and Fabinho It's looking United bound. I mean, where this whole Monaco merry-go-round at the moment is never ending.
So yeah, a week ago we spoke about Fabinho being a possible signing for City and how perfect he would be for Guardiola's system. And at the time, it seemed like Bernardo Silva was on his way to United. There's been a complete role reversal in that respect, and City swooped in, took Bernardo Silva off Monaco's hands within the space of 24 hours, seemingly got the deal done really quick. Great bit of business for City, and now their interest in Fabinho seems to have cooled, with maybe Kyle Walker being a more likely option at right back for City. And the latest reports would suggest that United are favourites to sign Fabinho. Gianluca Di Marzio from Sky Sport Italia reported about a month or so ago that United and Juventus were both looking at Fabinho. There's been nothing from a particularly reliable source to suggest that there's been any movement to that end, but there are some rumblings online, so we'll see if they develop. I was saying last time we spoke that Fabinho would have been a perfect right back for City, having played in midfield this season and spent most of his career at right back up until that point. But those requirements are very much specific to Guardiola's style. He likes to have a fullback who can move inside and operate in central attacking midfield zones. Having spent the whole season and impressing so much in central midfield for Monaco this season, I think any club looking at him now would be looking at him with a view to bringing him in as a midfielder. And that's where I anticipate United's interest being for him, perhaps a long-term replacement for Michael Carrick at the base of midfield. For me, Fabinho, stylistically, he's somewhere between the type of defensive midfield destroyer that Mourinho tends to go for in his sides. You look back at his Porto team had Costinha. His Real Madrid teams had Las Diarra. At Inter, he had Cambiasso. At Chelsea, he's had Matic and Makelele in his two different spells. So he very much likes a specific kind of destroyer at central midfield, somebody who's not overly technical, who's very positionally disciplined, is very restricted in their use of the ball. They win it and they give it to the more gifted players on the team. Whereas United, having had Carrick for the past, I think, 11, 12 years now, are used to a more deep-line playmaker style of defensive midfielder, someone who gets on the ball and looks to instigate attacking moves from deep, someone with a good crisp range of passing, who looks forward as their first option before looking for a sideways pass. And Fabinho, for me, is a compromise between the two. He's not a Julian Weigl or a kind of register in that sense that a lot of United fans would perhaps like Mourinho to target. But he's also not limited in the fact of in respect of being a defensive midfielder. He's someone who can play. We've seen it when he was at right back. He's comfortable in attacking zones. He's a good passer. He's intelligent. He's incredibly athletic. He can get around the pitch. So for me, if United are looking at a defensive midfielder, there's probably no better option out there than Fabinho. He did sign a new contract with Monaco at the beginning of last season, but that was believed to be with a proviso that he'd be allowed to leave at the end of that campaign, which we've now reached. So we'll see whether they can manage to hang on to him or whether they will honour that agreement and let him go.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Monaco fans called him the Beast in that middle of the park. Of course, you say a sort of replacement for Michael Carrick, but technically he isn't sort of a Michael Carrick type player. So you do see him as a central defensive midfielder in the maybe three in midfield than I don't know, as two holding, obviously, because you won't have him as a two holding because he's not as good. Or would you see him as maybe him and Herrera holding, him and Pogba holding, or will he be a right back? You do see him as a midfielder now, surely.
I think so. For any team other than City, with what Guardiola likes to do with his fullbacks that I've seen being a midfielder, it depends entirely on how Mourinho wants to set up his United team, and it will depend a lot on which of his other targets he can secure, whether he wants to stick with a 4-2-3-1 that he's favoured in the last few years at Chelsea and Madrid and now at United, or whether he will continue to experiment with 4-3-3, which would get the best out of Pogba. In that formation with Fabinho as the defensive midfielder, he could offer the kind of cover that would free Pogba up to move into advanced areas. It might also help as well. We've seen Pogba struggle a little bit in a 4-2-3-1 at the base of a double pivot because he's just shackled with too much defensive responsibility. Somebody who can anchor at the base midfield like Fabinho might free him up a little bit more than perhaps, say, Herrera would have done playing alongside of him, or a Fellaini, someone who doesn't have quite the same defensive instincts. So it could work in both systems. He could be part of a double pivot to free up Pogba, or ideally in a three with Pogba and Herrera either side of him could work really well.
It sounds really good. It sounds really promising as well. A Brazilian signing for United, and he's not Ronaldinho. That is quite exciting. What would you say then, Ryan? What would you give this one out of 10 in terms of likely? You said earlier on that Onyekuru looks nailed on, more or less. What does Fabinho look like? 40 million is the fee that's being whispered at the moment.
Yeah, I think fee-wise, that pretty much represents a good value in the current market. I'm still a little bit dubious on this one. Like I said, Demasia reported it a month or two back now, but there's been nothing concrete from a particularly well-established media source for a little while. So I wouldn't get overly excited about this one just yet. We're looking at it and hoping it's going to develop, but for now I'd say maybe a 5.
A 5, so we're halfway there. Let's move on. Let's keep it in England though, and a transfer between two of the English clubs, Southampton and Liverpool. Virgil van Dijk has had a good season this year, apart from the injury towards the end of it. I think he's still recovering, and I don't think he's going to be in any fit state to take any medical anytime soon, unfortunately. However, the rumours are still linking him with a move to Liverpool. Now, this sort of did pipe up quite a lot, didn't it, Ryan, towards the end of the season, Van Dijk to Liverpool. Then when the season ended, it went really, really quiet. And now the rumours are starting to surface ever so quietly, or ever so suddenly again. Liverpool need a centre-back. Is Van Dijk the man?
He's the man for anybody needing a centre-back. I think he's an absolutely tremendous player. We ran the exclusive a few months back on Football Whispers of Liverpool being confident of pulling off a deal for Van Dijk. They believe that they can come to terms with the player and that he's willing to come to join them. So it's just a matter of agreeing a fee with Southampton, who are believed to be looking for a good old packet for one of their star players. He's got that Premier League proven tag that a lot of people like to look for, which adds an extra 10 or 20 million onto a player's value. So he's probably going to cost around the 50 million mark if he's going to move this summer. But if Liverpool are willing to pay that, they are very confident of being able to pull off a deal. He'd add a tremendous amount of quality. He'd be an absolutely massive improvement on their current defensive options. I think Joel Matip is a good player. They picked him up on free last season for Schalke, and I think that was a good addition. Dejan Lovren, I believe, has just signed a new £100,000 a week contract at Liverpool. But he's not overly impressed. He's not been the most consistent defender since arriving at Anfield. I think that's the area they could improve on if they wanted to bring Van Dijk in, another maybe a Southampton for Southampton swap. It's obviously there's a great business relationship between Southampton and Liverpool. They've done so much business with each other over the last few years, which you would think would perhaps pave the way to easier negotiations over a potential Van Dijk deal. And then quality-wise, he's a great fit for any club aspiring to challenge at the top end of the Premier League. He's great on the ball, as is expected of all centre-halves these days. He can bring the ball out, he can play a pass. He's actually quite good dribbling on one-on-one situations too when he's being pressed. He can evade the press by stepping out and stepping into midfield, freeing up a bit of space ahead of himself. He's a good passer. He's incredible in the air, really, really strong in the air. He's solid positionally. He's quick. He's fairly quick for a big guy. I think he's about 6'4", but he moves across the ground well. He's got pretty much every attribute you'd be looking for in a central defender in the modern game. And I'm a little bit surprised there's not somewhat of a bidding war going on from him at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those that might just happen overnight in some aspects. It just takes a fee to be agreed with Liverpool now, doesn't it? Because I think in terms of talks, Van Dijk wants to join Liverpool. That's certainly what is being said. The BBC are on this. Apparently he does want to join Liverpool, and that's the rumour doing the rounds at the moment. You think he'll fit in nicely then with Matip, maybe even Lovren in there as well. We're also looking at Naby Keita. It'd be a big window, won't it, for Liverpool? They really do need to improve those defensive lines.
Yeah, finishing in the top 4 was huge for them. Obviously, they'll have had 2 completely separate lists of targets that they'd been able to go for had they achieved Champions League football or not. So now they have got there. They made it into the top 4. They can really sort of look to aspire to a different level of play than they would have been able to otherwise. They're going to have to spend big to keep up with everybody else's, as we know. City have already started spending, and they're not going to stop anytime soon. Chelsea are going to reinforce. Arsenal are going to come big again because they have the potential to lose 2 of their best players, and they want to be getting back in that Champions League spot. So they're going to spend. United are going to spend. So Liverpool have got to follow suit. There's talk of Keita coming in for around 40 million. For me, he's probably the best midfielder in Europe outside of one of the major clubs. Absolutely phenomenal box-to-box player. Been massively impressed with him this season at RB Leipzig. He's been their best player by some distance, and they've got a really talented group of players there. So if they could pick him up, that'd be a great addition to the team. And yeah, Van Dijk would just move them on so much defensively that he could really take them to the level where they need to be to not only to reach that top four, but to keep themselves there.
Yeah, and obviously to get past the knockout stages of the Champions League as well, to get in the group stages and then as far as they need to go. What are you rating the Van Dijk rumour then out of 10, Ryan?
I'd probably give this one a 7, just for the fact that all the signs point towards Van Dijk being happy to go to Liverpool, with terms being there or thereabouts to being agreed. But there's still that chance for another club to come and sweep in and offer more than Liverpool are willing to pay. So for now, I'll say a 7, be fairly conservative, but there's reason for Liverpool fans to be hopeful on this one for sure.
Do you know what? As a United fan, I'd love a Bailly Van Dijk centre-back partnership, I'll tell you.
He'd be great. He'd be perfect. He's the kind of calming influence. Yeah, Bailey likes to hair around all over the place. He dives into his tackles, but tremendous athlete. He's a defender who defends on instinct, whereas Van Dijk could be the calming presence alongside him, so it would work perfectly. I
said it before, Ryan, I'll say it again. I think Mourinho's put himself in a corner with his transfer targets. He has to sign Michael Keane. I think he can't go for anyone else. I think he has to. Whether he's the right player or not, I just think that if United don't sign Michael Keane and don't put some trust in Michael Keane, we're going to end up fielding an 11 with just foreign players. And he can't do that at United. He knows that. So I think he's backed himself into a corner where he has to sign Michael Keane, and that's because of that we miss out on the likes of Van Dijk, who would be a perfect fit for United. But anyway, it's not about United, it's about Liverpool at the moment. Good luck to them, and I hope they get him. I think Van Dijk definitely deserves to be at a big club, so it'd be great to see him move up from Southampton. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. Go and check out Football Whispers. They don't just talk about the transfer rumours, they also go in depth and talk about how these players will fit into the clubs, and we absolutely love that. Ryan's brilliant at what he does. Thank you so much, buddy, for joining us.
No problem. Thanks, man. See you soon.
Keep it with Box and Ballers. More transfer rumour rater videos on the way. That's not even a word. It's rate that rumour, but who knows? We'll hashtag it and then you'll know what it is. Make sure you subscribe. Check out some of the boxing videos as well. We provide the biggest content on the biggest talking points in boxing and football. We'll see you soon.